Sirena, the California Christmas Mermaid, a story about savoring. White was the color of Christmas Eve at Granca's house. She knew the white of Christmas would be gone by noon on Christmas Day, though, and that it would be warm and springtime sunny again. She sang a little Christmas carol to herself as she packed her suitcase. The cats watched, suspicious of the whole thing. Granca put a sweater in the suitcase, but there was no room. She said to herself, I've only put a couple things in the bag. Why am I out of room? She saw something like the sweater moving in her suitcase, except it had two big green eyes. Oh, Galveston, I can't take you with me on the trip. I'm going to visit my California cousins on a big airplane. You would not want to ride that suitcase down the baggage conveyor belt, I assure you. Galveston jumped out and watched from the corner of the room, frowning just a little. When Christmas came, Granca got up before the sun. She waved goodbye to the cats and drove off in her car, Minnie Pearl, to the airport. Minnie Pearl was also a little sad because she had to spend Christmas in an icy cold parking lot. She preferred road trips and would not even honk goodbye to Granca. Oh, Minnie, said Granca, you have a lot of cars here to keep you company, and I promised to take you on a long road trip to California this summer when the roads are not so slick. Minnie watched her walk away. When Granca looked back at her, she swore there was a little tear under Minnie's eye. She waved goodbye and was sad to leave Minnie Pearl looking so gloomy. Then Granca got on a giant airplane. Well, giant compared to Minnie Pearl, that is, and flew for the whole morning. When the plane landed, she got out in a place that was warm and sunny. Ah, I'm in San Francisco, California, she thought. Granca felt scared and excited all at once because she hardly knew her California cousins. On the way to the baggage claim, she felt a little sick to her stomach, but in a few minutes she was riding happily down the road with her cousins and her Aunt Franny to a special Christmas celebration. Once they got to Aunt Franny's house, Granca got to visit the garden. It was so beautiful that she could hardly believe she had just left Minnie Pearl in an icy parking lot. There were pink azaleas and geraniums blooming outside, and a water flowing in a 3-layered fountain. In fact, there was even a tree with real oranges hanging from the branches. Those are California ornaments for sure, thought Granca. Granca was born in California and lived there for a short time, once when she was a baby, and once when she was a teenager. But way before that, her own dad was born in San Francisco. That's why she has a very special family to spend Christmas with this year, because her dad's family still lived in this beautiful place by the Pacific Ocean. Granca was always curious about her dad's family. It was a fun Christmas celebration. This family gave something called white elephants instead of regular Christmas gifts. When Granca first heard about the white elephant thing, she thought an elephant was too big to fit on the airplane. Why, that's bigger than Minnie Pearl. But she found out that a white elephant is really something you give away that you don't want anymore to someone else. Oh, thought Granca, that kind of white elephant will fit in my suitcase. The white elephants were hilarious, and the game people took turns choosing a gift, or they can steal someone else's gift if they like what someone already has. Granca's cousin Ted got a porta potty. That's a toilet that folds up in a little box. And her Aunt Franny got 2 really wonderful gifts that were stolen by other family, and she ended up with a ceramic lizard that she really didn't want very much. The white elephants were so hilarious that they laughed and laughed until tears came running down their faces. After that, Granca started to feel more relaxed. This family has the strength of humor and playfulness, she thought. After the white elephants had all had a new home, they ate German chocolate cake, and then Granca went home with her cousin, Sherry, and Sherry's husband, Alberto, for a few days. The first day, Sherry and Alberto took Granca for a long walk on the beach. The waves were so pretty and relaxing, the sun was so warm, that Granca took off her long underwear for the whole rest of the trip. It was fun to look at all the birds. Sometimes they see dolphins and whales on the beach, but not the day after Christmas. The second day was magic because it was the day that Granca met Sirena, the mermaid. The day started with breakfast and lunch at Sherry and Alberto's house on the beach, but then in the afternoon they took a drive on the beach. They went to towns named Monterey and Carmel At one point, they stopped on the beach for Granca to take pictures to share with her grandkids, Maya and Isaac. It was like no other beach she'd ever seen before. It was beautiful rock structures that looked like castles sticking out of the blue waves. There were all sorts of seagulls flying around the rocks. Granca walked down to the water to take some pictures of the bird. That's when she met Sirena. She thought it was a seagull squawking at first. She listened more closely, and it was a little voice saying, "Come here, come here." Grandma went down closer, and it looked like a little blonde girl in the water. In fact, it looked a little like her granddaughter Maya. Grandma did a little gasp. Then that little girl said, "Oh, it's okay. I don't want to scare you. My name is Sirena, and I'm a mermaid." "A mermaid?" asked Grandma. "I've lived in California, and I've never met a mermaid." Then she went closer, and she could see that it was a real live mermaid. Granca gasped again. Then Sirena explained that she had come to find Granca because she wanted to meet Maya. Granca said, "My granddaughter Maya?" "Yes," said Sirena. "Why?" asked Granca. "Because I know you miss Maya and you want to send her a gift to remind her you're thinking of her." "Oh," said Granca, "but you'll dry out if I take you back to Colorado in the big plane to mail." Sirena laughed. "That's why I'm turning myself into a little doll you can put in your purse. No one will ever know I'm a real mermaid except for you and Maya." And with that, Sirena, that name means mermaid in Spanish, became a little blonde mermaid doll. And Granca quickly tucked the doll in her bag and headed back to find Sherry and Alberto. They got in the car and drove to the town Carmel to go shopping. Granca still could not believe she had a mermaid in her purse. Who carries mermaids in their purse to go shopping after all? Well, it's a good thing that Sirena was there because she pointed out a little alligator outfit for Isaac. Granca was just walking down the aisle minding her own business, and that little mermaid almost flipped out of the purse trying to get her to stop and notice. Sirena told Granca that Isaac needed a gift to tell Isaac that she missed him too, so Granca grabbed the little outfit and headed to the counter. Then Sirena almost flipped herself out of that purse to grab a special key holder for Granca's daughter, Stephanie. It had her name right on it too. It is quite an adventure to shop with a mermaid in your purse, thought Granca. Granca looked at the gifts, knowing she wanted to savor this trip with her special family. Savor means to share smiles about something you enjoy doing. "It's important to savor things," said Sirena. It helps us to be happy because we share our joy with others who we care about, and everyone smiles. So Granca bought the gifts, of course. The third day, Sherry and Alberto took Granca to the redwood florist. Those trees are giant, I tell you. They are as tall as a skyscraper in the city. All Granca could think about was savoring her trip with her family, so she took lots of pictures to share. Then on the last day of her trip, Sherry and Alberto took Granca to pick up Aunt Franny for a special journey. They drove up the coast for a long time to get to a beach house. There was a lady at the beach house who was friends with Aunt Franny and Granca's dad and Uncle Bert. That was cool because the woman was very old and wise to remember being a kid so long ago. She was 86 years old. That woman would need a huge birthday cake, I tell you. Granca put Sirena in her purse again in case she would like a trip to the beach house. There were a lot of people at the beach house who were kids and grandkids to the woman. People talked and laughed. That's when Granca heard Sirena talking to her. Granca looked at the doll and said, "I can't believe a doll is talking to me. You're not a real mermaid anymore." Sirena looked kind of sad for a moment. Then she explained, "I must be a mermaid. I have no fear of depth and a great fear of shallow living." Granca scratched her head a little. "What does that mean?" she asked. Sirena explained that she was a teacher of living life in a way that made people feel really close to each other. People have to tell each other openly without fear how they feel about things that happen. And when they do, they need to be listened to and respected, always. "Even kids like Maya and Isaac," said Granca. "Especially kids, including Maya and Isaac," replied Sirena. "In fact," she replied, "they can always talk to me about anything, because I'm not afraid of depth." Granca felt good about having spent the day at the beach house with her family, the wise woman and Sirena. After a couple hours, they took a drive back to Sherry and Alberto's house. On the way back, they stopped in San Francisco. Now that city has class. There are steep hills, cable cars, and special chocolate. But the best thing of all is a gargantuan, world-famous bridge called the Golden Gate Bridge that they drove across in the car. It was an awesome sight on Granca's last day. The next day, Alberto drove her to the airport. Granca still had Sirena in her purse. Well, that little doll came to life again in the airport, I tell you. She almost slipped out of the purse again when they got to the baggage checkpoint. "Shh, Sirena, shh," said Granca. "You're going to get me in trouble for bringing a real mermaid on the airplane. Besides, you will dry out if you become a real mermaid." Sirena just smiled and pointed to two things for Maya and Isaac. One was a special San Francisco chocolate bar, and the other was a Golden Gate bridge toy. "They can have fun sharing those," said Sirena. "The bridge toy is a good idea for them to share. But Isaac can't eat chocolate, silly. Don't mermaids know anything about babies?" Sirena laughed. "Well, I bet your daughter can figure out who else Maya can share with." "You're right," said Granca, and she bought the gifts. After a long airplane ride home, Granca was exhausted, but Minnie Pearl was all smiles when she saw her walking through the parking lot. Minnie honked happily. "That car has carnality, I tell you." Minnie took Granca home safely, as always. Granca knew that the cat lady, Liz, had been there to take care of the kitties. When she opened the door, she couldn't see them at first, but she heard Serendipity singing for joy. "That cat is so afraid when she is left alone, even when Liz takes care of her." Granca could not see the other kitties at first, but when she went into her room, there they were all snuggled up in her bed. "Well, at least I don't need my electric blanket to warm my bed tonight," she laughed. It felt so cold in Colorado after walking on the beach in California. She patted each of the kitties on the head and then carefully lifted Sirena out of her purse and put her in a bag with the other gifts. "I'll be sending you to Maya very soon as a way of savoring my trip," said Granca. The little mermaid looked like a stuffed cat toy that Sage might want to fish out of the door and play with, so she needed to be put away safely. Just before Granca closed the door that she put Sirena into, that little mermaid did a quick wink at her. Granca was glad she had picked Sirena and the other gifts to share the joy of her magical California trip with her family, who she missed very much. Savoring, she thought, is a good way of living life deeply, just like a mermaid would want. The end.